Welcome. We are glad to have you with us for another lecture in this course on self-knowledge. Today, we'll explore a truly essential topic: the 3 factors of the revolution of consciousness. This subject is fundamental because these 3 factors, if we practice them sincerely and consistently, are the only ones that can truly awaken our consciousness, develop our spirit, and guide us toward the self-realization of our being. In other words, they are the keys to achieving complete inner liberation. In the world today, we find countless religions, spiritual traditions, mystical schools, belief systems, methods, and practices. But most of them teach us to look for the divine outside ourselves. They encourage blind belief in something external, in a God or spiritual power that exists somewhere beyond us. And they promise that if we maintain our faith, blindly and without doubt, we will one day be rewarded, whether in this life or the next. At the same time, there are many spiritual trends offering a wide variety of techniques, promising to develop psychic abilities, heal the body, attract abundance, achieve peace, and even awaken the consciousness. And so we search. We try method after method, technique after technique, lost in an ocean of theories and practices. Years can go by without experiencing any real inner change. Despite all our efforts, we may still feel far from awakening, far from true transformation. Eventually, we become tired. Some give up and place their hope in a better life after death. Others lose hope entirely and fall into materialism or atheism, denying the existence of anything divine. But when the soul, weary from so many cycles of birth and death, finally encounters the knowledge of these 3 factors and begins to live them consciously day by day, a profound transformation begins. This marks the start of true regeneration, a return to the purpose for which the soul came into this world: to know itself. So, the goal of this lecture is simple: to give you the fundamental tools needed for self-realization. The revolution of consciousness means breaking free from the mechanical cycle of evolution and involution. True human regeneration can only happen through conscious revolution, a deliberate internal transformation. And this revolution is made possible by 3 essential factors: dying within ourselves, being born spiritually, and selfless sacrifice for humanity. Let's explore each of these factors in detail. The first factor is to be born, that is, spiritual birth. Spiritual birth means the creation of the existential bodies of the being. Just as our physical body was formed through sex, our internal, spiritual bodies must also be created. And this, too, happens through sex. The first and most vital transformation we must make is to begin valuing our sexual energy. We must stop wasting it and start conserving and refining it. Only then can the process of spiritual birth truly begin. Sexual energy is creative by nature. Just as physical children are conceived when a man and woman unite sexually, we can also use that same sexual energy, in a higher way, to create the internal bodies of the being. If, during sexual union, we consciously direct this energy upwards along the spine, instead of expelling it through orgasm or ejaculation, we begin to create what are known as the existential bodies of the being. These bodies allow us to have conscious experience and presence in the higher dimensions of nature. This practice is called supersex or sexual transmutation. By practicing it, we start to regenerate our physical body, which, in its current state, is lunar, degenerated, and subject to illness and death. Through transmutation, we elevate it to a solar state, filling it with active, purified sexual energy. Next, we regenerate our vital body, the energetic double of the physical body, which also exists in a degenerated lunar condition. Once these lower bodies are regenerated, the creation of our solar astral body and solar mental body begins. Right now, we only have the seed or principle of these bodies. But when we fully develop the solar astral and mental bodies, we gain conscious and sustained access to the 5th dimension of nature. And beyond that, we can also create the solar causal body, which gives us entry into the world of causes, or what we call reality. When we have formed all 5 of these bodies, the physical, vital, astral, mental, and causal, we become true human beings. At that point, we earn the right to unite with the 2 higher bodies, the Buddhic body and the Atmic body, allowing full presence in the 6th and 7th dimensions of nature. This entire process of spiritual birth is made possible through the conscious practice of sexual transmutation. There are 3 essential requirements for sexual practice to become a superior spiritual practice. These are fidelity, chastity, and love. If even one of these is missing, the practice will not produce positive results. Let's look at them one by one. Fidelity means having a stable, committed partner with whom we can work consistently in this practice. It must be one partner, not many, because using multiple partners dilutes and corrupts the work. The couple must understand the sacred nature of this practice and be willing to collaborate in it consciously. And this practice must take place between a man and a woman, because only when their opposite polarities unite can a true creative force be activated. Just as both a man and a woman are required to create a physical child, both are also required to create the internal spiritual bodies. The second requirement is chastity. Chastity does not mean sexual repression. It means not expelling sexual energy, no orgasm, no ejaculation, for any reason. This energy is sacred. It must be conserved, refined, and directed upwards through the spine. Through this, we learn to fill ourselves with our own creative power. To succeed in this work, we must learn to deeply value our sexual energy, because with it, all spiritual creation becomes possible. And the third requirement is love. Love means respecting your partner, caring for them, and sharing a sincere spiritual longing to grow together. Your partner is your greatest ally, your most precious complement, because it is through them that you will connect to your own inner divinity. For this reason, your partner must be deeply valued. The place where the sexual practice takes place is the couple's bed, and this bed becomes their altar. It is a sacred space, and it must be treated with great respect. We must take care that no foreign energies mix with it. The bedroom where this altar is located, must be spotlessly clean, well ventilated, and completely free from noise, such as loud music or television. And no one else should sleep in that room. This superior form of sex cannot be practiced just anywhere. It requires a dedicated special space, a private and pure environment worthy of the sacred work being done. Before beginning the practice of spiritual birth, we must first prepare ourselves. Just as the physical cleanliness of the bedroom is important, it is also essential to cleanse the space of heavy or negative energies. To do this, we can begin by chanting the Belilan Conjuration of Protection, a sacred song that purifies the environment and clears it of harmful vibrations. After that, we complete the cleansing by performing the magical circle of protection, to seal the space and prevent interference from negative energies or entities during the sexual practice. We explored these protection conjurations in detail back in Conference 7. Once the space is energetically clean, we then offer a simple and sincere prayer, in our own words, asking our inner Father and Divine Mother to assist us and guide us during the practice. Once everything is prepared, we then move on to activate our sexual energy together with our partner. This activation means achieving a correct erection in the man and a correct lubrication in the woman. This happens through conscious kisses and caresses shared between the couple. And by conscious, we mean that the mind must not interfere. We stay fully present, aware of every kiss, every touch, without allowing the psychological defects of lust to arise. We avoid overexcitement, and above all, we avoid the loss of energy. When the woman reaches proper natural lubrication and the man achieves a firm erection, we then proceed to sexual union, to penetration, with full awareness and inner serenity. Throughout the entire practice, 3 key qualities are essential: concentration, imagination, and will. Concentration means keeping the mind focused, never allowing it to wander into thoughts or distractions. Each partner must stay centered on their own energy, fully present in the moment. Imagination must also be used wisely. It allows us to consciously guide the sexual energy inward and upward. We must remember, for the wise, to imagine is to see, and to create. And finally, we need willpower, the inner strength to remain in control of our sexual organs, never allowing ourselves to become overexcited or to reach orgasm or ejaculation. The key difference between this spiritual sexual practice and conventional sex is that instead of making rough or fast movements to reach orgasm, we make gentle, conscious movements, and only when necessary, to maintain sexual potency. The goal is to raise the sexual energy through the spine, using a simple breathing technique. This breathing process consists of 3 steps. Inhale deeply and slowly, filling the lungs with air, and mentally directing that breath down toward the sexual organs, the gonads. Hold the breath while visualizing the sexual energy, like a golden thread, rising from the testicles in men, or the ovaries in women toward the coccyx. Then, using your conscious imagination, guide that energy up the spine, all the way to the point between the eyebrows. Once the energy reaches that point, exhale slowly while vocalizing the mantra. Repeat the breathing process, and the next exhalation will carry the mantra. Then repeat once more, and this time exhale with. You continue cycling through these 3 mantras, while slowly and consciously drawing the energy upward. Each phase, inhaling, holding, and exhaling, should gradually reach 20 seconds each if possible. But don't push yourself, lung capacity and control will improve with practice. If sexual potency decreases at any point, if the man loses some erection or the woman some lubrication, the couple can make soft movements to restore potency and then continue the process of raising the energy. This practice may last as long as the couple desires, or as long as sexual potency is present. And the true success of this practice is to end it without spilling the sexual energy. Without orgasm, without ejaculation, conserving that creative force for spiritual transformation. Here are some important recommendations to keep in mind. This practice should be done only once per night. With patience, prudence, and perseverance, we will advance, vertebra by vertebra, body by body, step by step in this sacred work. It's also important not to bathe until 2 hours after the practice. Even though we may not perceive it at first, a powerful electromagnetic energy is set in motion during this work. Bathing too soon will affect us. There are also specific conditions in which the practice should not be done. During the menstrual period, if the woman is pregnant, or during the lactation period. And very importantly, we must not use contraceptives. These substances and devices isolate and alter the creative power of sexual energy, interfering with the sacred process. We must also understand that this practice is, in itself, a form of natural fertility control, because its success lies in always withdrawing without reaching orgasm or ejaculation. And with that, we complete the explanation of the first factor of the revolution of consciousness. The second factor is to die, that is, to undergo psychological death. Psychological death means the inner disintegration of all our negative ways of being, the psychological defects that keep our essence trapped, our energy polluted, and our consciousness locked in the degenerative state we currently live in. To eliminate these defects is to allow the virtues of the soul to emerge. It's our negative moods, harmful emotions, distorted thoughts, and the way we mistreat our physical body that keep us in a state of illness, weakness, and disconnection. The physical ailments we suffer are often the outer reflection of the inner misuse and contamination of our energies by these psychological elements. When we eliminate them, we make space for their opposites, the soul's true expressions. By eliminating anger, we awaken patience, self-control, and the ability to love. By eliminating laziness, we develop willpower and diligence. By eliminating lust, we give birth to purity and chastity. By eliminating lies, greed, and pride, we cultivate honesty, loyalty, and humility. We begin to see that true virtue is not something added from outside. It is something born from within, once we free it from the defect that imprisoned it. A virtue is the pure expression of the essence. It is wisdom and power that arise from understanding and transforming a wrong way of being. But to begin the path of psychological death, we must first learn to observe ourselves. And this is often the hardest part because of the mechanical way we live. When we learn to truly observe ourselves, we begin to recognize the manifestations of the ego in our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. We must learn to distinguish between what comes from the ego, what belongs to the personality, and what comes from the consciousness. When we discover that it is not our consciousness expressing through us, but the ego, and we consciously choose to eliminate it, we begin to see deep and lasting change. Not as repression, not as guilt, but as real transformation, born from awareness and honesty. As we discussed in the last lesson, self-observation means directing our attention inward, into our inner world, with the goal of real change. And what can we observe in that inner world? We observe our thoughts, the ones that repeat, contradict, or distract. We listen to our internal dialogues, the ongoing chatter of different selves. We feel our emotions, both the pleasant and the painful. We notice our moods. We observe our mechanical reactions, the times we act without conscious choice. We watch everything that unsettles us, agitates us, or steals our peace. Because in all of those reactions, the ego is revealed. When we learn to recognize it, we begin the real work, the work of inner death, of liberating the soul from everything that keeps it asleep. When, through self-observation, you discover a manifestation of your ego, a thought, a feeling, or an action, take a moment to judge it. Not with guilt or shame, but with understanding. Recognize that what you're experiencing does not come from your consciousness. It's a psychological defect draining your energy, wounding you, and affecting those around you. Become aware that a portion of your consciousness is trapped inside that defect, imprisoned by it. And the moment you recognize it, the moment you truly see that it is a defect, you must ask for help. With sincerity and urgency, call upon your inner divine mother, your spiritual force of transformation, and beg her to eliminate that defect you have just discovered. Say mentally, with strength and devotion, Divine Mother, eliminate this defect. This is how we free the trapped consciousness. This is how we awaken it. This is how we begin to restore the unity of our being. The more seriously and consistently you work with this procedure, the more you will begin to free your essence. The more your energy centers will come into balance, and the more your consciousness will begin to awaken. With time, you will start to notice increasingly subtle details within yourself. These will be signs of real progress, and the sense of self-observation, at first dull or fleeting, will grow sharper and clearer the more you use it, until it becomes fully awakened. Let me give you an example of how to practice psychological death in daily life. Imagine I'm driving peacefully down the street. Suddenly, at the next corner, another car swerves in front of me, cutting me off and nearly causing an accident. If I stay calm, if I don't immediately react, I have the chance to observe what begins to stir within me. A thought arises, stupid. Another voice in my mind urges, insult him. One eye says, who does he think he is? Another shouts, chase him down. If I continue observing, I notice that I already feel ready to fight. I feel tension building in my emotional center. I detect the impulse to take revenge. Another thought says sarcastically, I wonder who taught him to drive. Then, I hope he crashes. Another eye worries, that car could have scratched mine. I realize I can't stop thinking about it. One by one, these voices arise, each one feeding the fire of my anger. Even hours later, I still replay the scene. I still feel upset. I still carry the tension in my body. This is the cost of identification, the cost of not observing. I feel drained, weak, because my energy has been wasted. Each of these reactions, each angry thought or emotional spike, is a different detail of the same defect, anger. But if I observe them, I can transform them. And to do so, I must call upon my Divine Mother. I must beg her, Divine Mother, eliminate this defect. I ask for the elimination of every single detail I observe. In my thoughts, in my emotions, in the words I want to say, and in the instinctive reactions trying to take control. By doing this, I don't allow the ego to act. I remain aware, and I act consciously. This process is known as death in motion. It means staying in self-observation throughout the entire day, being present, moment to moment, so that we can recognize the different manifestations of our ego as they arise, and continuously work to liberate the trapped consciousness within them. It is an active, living practice, a path of inner transformation through constant awareness. Then, at the end of the day, we can sit down in quiet reflection and review the events we experienced, paying close attention to the mistaken inner states that arose within us in response. By observing and understanding them more deeply, we make new discoveries about ourselves, and we continue asking our Divine Mother to eliminate everything we have come to comprehend. This process is known as reflective meditation, and it allows us to free large portions of trapped consciousness. And that is the second factor of the revolution of consciousness. The third factor is sacrifice for humanity. To sacrifice for humanity means to selflessly share this teaching with others, to give others the tools they need to change, to stop suffering, to awaken their consciousness, and to develop their own inner wisdom. Because wisdom is the beginning of everything. Without it, we die without ever understanding the true purpose of our existence. If we reflect on this and recognize the value of these teachings, we will also come to realize the responsibility that comes with receiving them. When we begin to apply this knowledge in our lives, we experience real, profound changes, and then naturally a desire is born within us, the need to share it. We remember that at one time, we too were unaware of this wisdom, and now we see how deeply it has helped us. So we understand that there are many souls in this world, waiting for someone to bring them the light of these three factors, so they too can find their purpose. To share this knowledge is to show real love for humanity. There are, however, certain conditions we must respect when sharing this knowledge with others. First, we must give it freely, without asking for anything in return, because if we expect something back, it is no longer a sacrifice, it becomes a business. Second, we must share it with everyone, without discrimination, regardless of race, age, nationality, gender, or social status, because we all come from the same divine source, and we are all walking toward the same purpose. But even as we share it with all, we must always respect each person's free will. Third, we must share this knowledge pure, without mixing it with other systems, without removing essential parts, and without hiding anything. It must be delivered just as it is. These are the three basic conditions: give it for free, give it to all, and give it pure. Now let's reflect on why we should sacrifice ourselves for humanity. First, because the reason for the being is the being itself. Second, because sacrifice helps us begin to stop being selfish. Third, because a work of love must be nourished with love. There's also a deeper reason. Each of our psychological defects carries its own karmic debt. And if we don't have enough dharma to pay those debts, we will become stuck in the process of psychological death. We owe the karma of 7 existences, and if we intend to self-realize, we must pay it in one lifetime. When you owe a lot, you need a strong income. And when we sacrifice for humanity, we generate dharma, a spiritual credit that allows us to pay for our past mistakes, without needing to suffer for them. Sacrifice also generates the merits of the heart, which are needed to move forward in our inner work. An egoist may try to advance, but they will move very slowly, if at all. And remember, what we give we receive. He who gives nothing receives nothing. But the one who shares wisdom receives more wisdom. And the one who has but does not give, even the little he has will eventually be taken away. When we teach, we come to understand better. Each time we help our inner father share this knowledge, he teaches us something new. Every time we review the conferences, we understand them better. And when we teach, we create a center of gravity that keeps our inner work alive and strong. But if we don't share this knowledge, little by little, we will begin to forget it, because our defects want us to forget. They want to pull us away from the work. Teaching helps us to stay connected to our path. Now, there are many ways to sacrifice for humanity. You can begin simply by inviting your friends to receive these teachings. Talk to your family members and acquaintances about this knowledge. Look for ways to invite people you don't even know. You can share conference invitations, share videos, or even make your own invitations, something that sparks interest and inspires others to receive this knowledge. You could support internet campaigns, help spread the message through social media, or prepare yourself to teach by studying the lectures deeply. Then you can begin teaching, in person or virtually. You can make videos, podcasts, or any kind of content that brings the teachings to others. You can open study groups, create physical or online spaces where people can come to learn. You can also prepare others so that they too can begin to teach. Motivate others to practice the 3 factors, and commit yourself to your own inner work so that you can better guide them through your example. If you ever get to experience the strength, the joy, and the spiritual fire that comes from sharing this knowledge, you'll want to do more each day to help your brothers and sisters in humanity receive it too. And that is the 3rd factor for the revolution of consciousness. This has been today's teaching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. We are here to help. I invite you to the next conference, where we will talk about the inner chatter and the psychological song. In that session, we will explore these 2 inner psychological mechanisms that silently drain our energy and keep our consciousness asleep. And most importantly, we'll learn how to achieve inner silence and how to truly forgive others. Don't miss it. See you in the next one.